Boy, what a local government election exciting. I'm Dion Jacksmiller, you're watching All Angles. And since Monday night, everyone has been asking, so who won? Both parties have been saying, me, I won. Well, we're going to be getting the latest on the vote counting as well as responses to criticisms of his office from the Director of Elections, Glasspole Brown. We're also going to be hearing from PNP General Secretary Dr. Dayton Campbell. We did invite the JLP, didn't get a representative though. And then offensive comments made by the PNP's Dennis Meadows and the JLP's Everald Warmington. They've both apologized, but is that where it should end? First up, though, Director of Elections Glasspole Brown spoke with our producer Giovanni Dennis a little bit earlier. You may hear some noise in the background. That's coming from the PNP supporters who were celebrating outside, and that's because the KSMC, Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation is tied 20-20, but the PNP got more votes overall, so the so-called popular vote. So the PNP will be selecting the person who will be the mayor. Before all of that, though, Director of Elections, Glasspole Brown.
So I'm currently at the Electoral Office of Jamaica. I'm about to speak with the Director of Elections, Glasspole Brown. Now, he's unable to join us live on the program tonight, and he only agreed to give us a 5-minute interview here on All Angles. I'll try my best to get him to speak for much more than 5 minutes, so here we go. Good evening, Mr. Brown. Thank you, sir. Mr. Brown, there seems to be there are concerns about the way in which the votes were counted this election, the wrong declaration of Clarendon, what seems to be the confusion about who won St. Mary initially. First, what went wrong with Clarendon, firstly?
There's no difference in counting this time around as against other elections. I think we need to understand, and the public need to understand, it goes through two processes. On election night, you get what is known as the preliminary count. The preliminary count is what happens after the close of poll in an individual polling station, where the presiding officer, along with the indoor agents, count the ballot and then tally the votes and then pack everything in a ballot box and transport that to the returning officer. And then what the returning officer does at the night of election, they then take all the number, transcribe the number that is on the ballot box, and they end up with what is known as the preliminary count. That was done, and the result was announced on the night, on Monday night, as relates to the preliminary count. Then we embarked on another phase, and this is dictated by the law. The law requires us to do a final count. The final count entails, and I think the public need to understand, that what happens in the final count, and it has never taken place, and there's a narrative going around that it is slow. The final count has never been completed in Jamaica in 24 hours. So the process entails that the returning officer, in the presence of the agents at the counting center on the second day, which was Tuesday, and at times the agent representative is a battery of lawyers. What they do, the returning officer opens the ballot box, then examine every document, most of the document in the ballot box, including the poll books, another thing, the unused ballots, etc., etc. And then they begin, in most cases, the count of the ballot. What it means is that they examine every single ballot that is put in the ballot box. And at times, the time that it takes to count a ballot in that situation, sometimes it takes longer than the norm, because everybody is looking to see whether it is properly marked, if there's an issue. And therefore, sometimes it takes time. And therefore, that process has to be completed. We cannot circumvent that process in order to speed up the count. And therefore, it takes some time. And that's what we're going through.
So then, what happened in Clarendon?
Clarendon, and it happens. In other words, what we remember again, on Monday night, you have a preliminary count. There are times when they begin to do the final count, maybe there was an error in terms of the addition, etc., etc. What happened in Clarendon is that in a particular box, one of the candidates was given the wrong number of votes, and therefore it flips around. But the person who got the highest number in that particular box The correct thing was that he should have gotten the lower figure, and that changes the mix or the calculation.
And this was in the Annan Town division. So which candidate initially got the wrong number of votes? Like how did it go? On which side?
The PNP candidate got the wrong number.
Which would have declared that candidate the winner
on the night, on the preliminary count night.
On the preliminary count, and then it was
switched around. So therefore, in the final count, the correction was made, and then the JLP candidate won that division.
Okay. What happened with St. Mary?
St. Mary, it was the calculation and the addition that took place. Right, that caused, after that count was completed, and you'll examine what was spoiled, examine what was acceptable by the returning officer. And then remember, the returning officer at the point of counting is the final person in that room that accepts what is a good ballot or what is not a good ballot. So doing those checks and those reconciliation, the numbers change, and that's what happens in the SM area.
And then now we go to way out west in Hanover. Initially we had heard 7-0 to the PNP, then we heard 6-1, and now 7-0 again to the PNP. What happened there?
It happens in a sense that the count, and then we need to remember again, when you go to a final count, you examine every ballot, so the numbers will change and they will fluctuate from time to time within the thing. There's nothing that says, again, as a country, you need to understand, it's a preliminary count that takes place on the Monday, the night of election. And in doing your final checks, or the final check, the numbers can change. The key thing that the numbers change based on what is legitimate ballot. And therefore, that's what happened why you had that fluctuation in Hanover.
Especially given what we're seeing now with the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, I have to ask you this question. Is it the practice of the Electoral Commission to declare a municipal corporation won by one party because they got the popular vote, even though the number of divisions are tied?
No, we are not declaring that. What we're declaring, we are declaring a number of electoral division that each political party would have won in the election. In terms of who take control of the municipality, the law is clear. If you read the 7th, the 8th of Europa, it clearly outlines what happened whenever there's a tie. Whenever there's a tie, the party with the popular vote will automatically takes charge of the mirror seat in that electoral division.
And just for regular parlance, so the average man can understand, would the Electoral Commission consider that corporation won by the party who has the popular vote?
It's not a matter of the Electoral Commission will consider it. The law clearly defines the process, what happens when there's a tie. And therefore, it's not a matter of accepting or not accepting. The law says whenever there's a tie, the person who takes over the chairmanship of that municipality is a party that has the popular vote, the majority of the popular vote.
The general secretaries of both the JLP and the PNP, speaking to Dion Jackson Miller on Beyond the Headlines yesterday, said that their confidence in the EOJ remains. We've seen some people on social media, however, raising concerns about the integrity of the electoral office this time around. Can you respond to some of those concerns?
We work hard here. I think people need to understand the process. I think some of the comments, if you look at the comments, I think when some members of people don't understand the process, and therefore they're able to pass certain comments. But certainly we ensure and we do whatever we do as dictated by the law, and we'll never resign from that. We're not going to do anything that is not dictated to us by the law. And you can, and one of the major body which we rely upon here is the CAFE, the Observer Grouping. And we have always been in the house by the Observer Grouping. And CAFE came out, despite some issues that they had, they came out and endorsed the election itself. And they did say this election was fair and transparent based on the observation of the activities that took place in the election.
As you mentioned, CAFE, I'm happy you brought them up. That's the Citizens Action for Free and Fair Elections.
Okay.
Now, they raised concerns, the head raised concerns yesterday as well on Beyond the Headlines, and even on the day of the election, saying that in about 11% of the polling stations, observers weren't allowed to observe throughout the day. They were given specific time periods, and they had serious concerns about that, which brought into question the issue of training of your election day workers. How do you respond to some of those concerns that electoral workers weren't properly trained, which saw pretty much 1 in 10, more than 1 in 10 polling station not allowing the cafe observers to do their jobs?
And we do. That's part of our training. We do train them in terms of the rights of the observer. It's an arrangement that we have, and it's an understanding that they should be allowed to free access, certainly to our polling station, because at the end of the day, we want their stamp of approval in terms of what we do. We coming out of that exercise, coming out of the issues that took place on Monday, I've had a discussion with the chairman of CAFE, Ms. Baston. In fact, I've also apologized on behalf of the Commission and the Electoral Office in terms of what happened. There's a scheduled meeting sometime next week between myself and Ms. Baston and her team. And we're going to look at how best what we need to do, not to have a repeat of what took place on Monday.
In terms of some of the numbers coming out, the actual voting on the night, there were concerns, widespread concerns about how slow it was. What do you attribute that to?
There are some issues in time. I'm trying to get a report. There are some technological issues, but there are some issues outside of that. What was brought to my attention, and I said before, I read a report, is that for example, in Hanover, Westpole, and St. James, the significant amount of rain, etc. So it took some time for the boxes to be brought into the counting center, and that also impacted on the speed at which the result came out. But suffice to say, by about 10:30, 11 o'clock, the country was aware in terms of the way it was trending.
There were concerns that essentially that the EOJ sold the results to media, and there are some people calling for that to stop because they felt that the results weren't being released in a timely manner to the public. How do you respond to those concerns that the EOJ sold the results to the media essentially, and for them to do?
Well, not matter as selling the data to some media. That issue, as I said, we are looking at that issue. We looked at our report. We're going to do a review, certainly, when we do the review of this election. I think some prior discussion I've had with our chairman, we're looking to see how best to address that matter that is in the public domain. But you'll get a response from us shortly in terms of the approach we'll take going forward.
You addressed the issue of cafe, but there were concerns from the media as well about them being allowed to observe. I remember speaking with my colleague from the Gleaner, Erica Virtue, who raised concerns. You're aware of some of the concerns that some media person were expressing?
Right. Well, we have sought in the past. I think we had a MOU between us and the Press Association of Jamaica. So there were some issues there. It is a matter of us reinforcing to our people, so in terms of, and some of those issues that she might have had or the individual might have had would have come from the external people to our operation. But what we have sought to do is to have that sort of MOU in place to govern the activity of the media, because we want the media to ensure, as part of the observer pool, to monitor what is happening and then report to the wider public in terms of our performance and activity on the day. So we will continue to look at that, how best we can address that situation so that we don't have a repeat going forward.
Any concerns expressed to you by any other political parties?
Nothing that was brought to my attention. Certainly on Monday, we set up what is known as the Election Center, which is a grouping of persons, including critical stakeholders. That is the police, the army, the political party, the main registered political party, the church, the Broadcasting Commission, CAFE, NIA. And within that grouping on the Monday, we receive a number of complaints, number of queries, etc. Nothing came to us on the day from any political party.
Okay. And subsequent to that?
Subsequent, I've not seen any report or anything that's been sent to us since then.
What's the current status of the results? Can you give us the latest update?
We continue to count. I think up to a short while ago, we are close to 170 divisions have been completed. We're going to continue to count in the course of the night. We want to try as best as possible to see how far we can get. There will be a few that will be going beyond tonight into Thursday morning.
And so, sorry, it's 170 of 228 divisions.
Yeah, and we have completed a few divisions for the mayoral, for the Portmore mayoral election. I think we have done about 4 or 5 out of those.
Okay. In terms of what's next for the next election, in terms of how the EOJ operates, what different will you do for the next election? Any changes at all?
Well, what happened? What will happen as soon as we are able to complete some of the activities to finalize this election? We're gonna sit down. We're gonna review certainly the different stakeholders. As I said before, there will be a meeting with CAFE next week to look at that aspect of it. We're gonna sit down with the JDF, the JSCF to look at what the issues. So it will be an extensive review will take place. Certainly we want to address some of those issues that we have a repeat coming whenever the next election is held.
Anything that you'd like to add that you think is important to share that I did not ask or forgot to ask, what you think is important to share?
Just to say to the public, we're going to try and do it from our end for the public to understand better the process. I think if the public is able to understand the process in terms of counting, etc., you get a better feel, and you may have that. You might most likely reduce the sort of negative comments that we see on the social media platform, etc., etc. So we're going to embark on that. Just to say that we just want from our end is to thank the public and the Jamaican electorate and the 30,000 persons who assisted us on election day in executing that election on Monday.
Thank you so much, Giovanni. And stay tuned. When we come back after the break, we're going to be hearing from the General Secretary of the People's National Party, Dayton Campbell. Stay tuned. We'll soon come.